Solvitur Ambulando, The Adventures of Steve and Dixie by Stephen Breakstone. Copyright 2026. Snippets from my journal. Episode 35, Month 13, June 1987. June 20th, 1987, Canyon City, Colorado, Saturday. I was expecting a package in the post office in Canyon City. Not long ago, I called Diamond Brands and told them of my dilemma with the door zipper of the tent not closing anymore. I can't live outdoors with a door that doesn't hide me from the mosquitoes. I was hoping that they would send me a new zipper and either I can sew it on or go to a store that has a tailor or something. But first, when coming into the town, I noticed the Ken Line Vet Clinic. I decided to stop in for advice regarding Dixie and her everything. Strangely enough, right before we walked into the building, about only 40 yards away, Dixie got something in her ear. I couldn't see anything in it, but she kept shaking her head as if to jar it loose or out. I guess it was good timing, if something strange had to happen. But unfortunately, Dixie, usually very common with doctors, would not let the doctor stick his instrument into her ear canal. That's how much it hurt. He was afraid it was one of those foxtails. Foxtails are a very annoying seed-like part of a type of grass. Its function is not unlike those damn Mexican sandburrs we so often encountered in Texas and Oklahoma that reminded me of medieval weapons that were balls with spikes attached to chains and used in battle. I think they get stuck in passing animals to spread the seed. In doing so, these sandburrs often lodge themselves in my socks and Dixie's pads, and we often had to stop and remove them. I became very impressed when Dixie learned how to remove them from between her pads with her teeth without getting them stuck in her tongue or gums. But these foxtails are quite sneaky, not at all as obvious as the sandburrs. They have a point on one side and two prongs on the opposite. They are soft and bend like a piece of grass. And with these, the feet of my escort were not harmed. But I damned them to hell when they found their way into my sock. Normal walking motion would have them attach and lodge themselves into my socks. Then they'd work their way down my boots. Then, as they anchored themselves to my socks, they would deliberately point their pointers directly into my soft skin. After not so delicately cursing this seemingly harmless piece of nature, it would take ungraceful physical maneuvering and intricate finger work with my full pack on to remove them from where they tried to germinate in the pores of my ankles and feet. It's possible, the doctor said, that she got one of those foxtails lodged in her ear. Great, just what we need. More problems to look forward to as we continue walking down the road. I've seen them go into ears, work their way in, pierce the eardrum, get into the brain, and kill a dog, he said. Needless to say, that wasn't a pleasant thing to hear. He actually scared me. On the other hand, I just couldn't believe that that's what it was. I mean, we've been walking through these motherfuckers for countless miles and weeks, and it just so happened that one would finally enter her ear just yards away from the first time we decided to stop into a vet clinic? No. Since she won't let me take a look in, I suggest that we tranquilize her. How long will she be out for? I asked. Oh, well, she'll have to stay overnight. Now I was sure that it couldn't be a foxtail. I was not about to go through all that time, trouble, and expense just to find out what I already knew. Of course, I could be wrong, and I would hate myself forever, but oh hell, I've been taking risks ever since I crossed the Mississippi. We've gotten this far. Give me another option, doctor. He didn't seem to appreciate that I would take the chance, but he said, I could give you some antibiotic medicine to squirt in her ear and see how that works. That's what we'll do, Doc. I just know that she's okay. After that, and considering recommendation from someone I met a few miles back, I bought some copper tox, which is used to harden the hooves of horses. It might harden up Dixie's pads. Time will tell. I paid for the copper tox, the antibiotics, and the visit, then headed to the post office. Side note, yeah, I could have been proven to be a real idiot for not counting my lucky stars and have taken advantage of being at the right place at the right time and let the doctor do what he suggested. But suffice it to say, that's not where my mind was at. And, at that point, I really did have a lot of experience dealing with such challenges, especially when it came to Dixie. On the other hand, I was still young and idealistic and naive, so that's how you make decisions. But one thing that's left out, and as I recall correctly, I didn't get a real warm, fuzzy feeling from that veterinarian. So leaving Dixie there with him for the night really just didn't feel right. Unfortunately, as I didn't write any more about it, the antibiotic lotion worked almost immediately. Maybe it just needed to be some lotion in there. I don't know, but it loosened whatever was in there, and then everything was good after that, as usual. And then, good news. Diamond Brand sent me a new zipper, and attached to it was a whole new tent. The mini fly, one man, one dog, one backpack tent of mine, which has been perfect for this trip, cost me over $180 when I bought it in New Orleans. Now I got a new one for free, more than I expected. Oh, and I don't think I ever journaled about the free replacement boots Oslo brand sent me for this leg of the journey after I wrote them about the soles of my first pair falling off. They have proven to be great boots for my hiking lifestyle. After the vet and post office, the town of Canyon had nothing much to offer me. We were really getting into the mountains now, and we were very excited. The toe hills had long ago grown into foothills. Now we were at the ankles and on our way higher. The Royal Gorge is 10 miles up the road or so, and I know that beauty is about to seriously envelop us. The sun was already behind the Rockies, but the brightness of the sky gave us plenty of time to get out of Canyon and find a good place to sleep. And on the outskirts of town, we met a fellow walking down the road, well, towards town. And as a gesture of friendliness, I said, "Hey, you're walking the wrong way. We're all headed this way." Kelly Pyle stopped to say hello and asked us what we were up to. "Headed up to the gorge?" he asked. "Sort of, but we're going to keep on going." I then went into my spiel about Seattle and Alaska. "Wow," he said. "Well, I was on my way to meet some friends at a bar. If you need a place to sleep, that's my house right over there. That's just right there on that dirt driveway." That sounds great. I appreciate it, but we've been on the road all day, and I don't really think I'd be that much fun in a bar for the rest of the night. "Ah, hey, that's cool. You can stay at the house, watch TV, take a shower, relax if you want." I felt kind of strange being invited to stay in the house of a person who I just met on the road and just met me. But a real shower is so very hard to turn down. We Americans are used to showering daily, even without doing anything strenuous or sweaty. And then there's me, who does strenuous and sweaty activities and hardly ever gets to take a real shower. Kelly is about 6 feet tall, blonde hair down to his shoulder, a mustache, and a nice face. Good enough for me. "Sounds like an offer I can't refuse," I said. So we, together, walked back to his house, and he showed me around and left for his Friday night beer blast. Dixie and I hung around, relaxed in a house instead of the tent, showered, and instead of watching the sunset and the stars twinkle, I watched a movie on his VCR. At about 11 o'clock, he came wobbling home, a bottle of Jack Daniels in his hand and lots of energy in the rest of his body. He quickly fell in love with Dixie, a charm I'm now so very used to. And he had Jack Daniels join us for Cokes and a ground beef omelet with onions and mushrooms and green peppers and some picante sauce. We were up until 2:30 babbling away about the meaning of life. He also offered his house an extra couple of days when I mentioned, strictly in conversation, about his new best friend's sore pads. I couldn't think of a good reason to refuse this free and friendly motel, but I was also very well aware that he was very drunk when he was offering all this. And he also mentioned a roommate who was not at home at the moment, a roommate who might have different ideas about strange new house guests. But this morning, after a night's sleep and time to think, Kelly realized that his mouth had gotten a bit big the night before. But he did say that I was welcome to spend the day. I figured that the more rest Dixie got, the better. I also realized the Yankees were playing the Red Sox on the game of the week, and, well, that could keep me happy. So Kelly, once again, left me with the house to myself. He was a cook at the Quality Inn Motel and had to be there. This 30-year-old man, thrice married, with 6 kids, 2 houses, and a mobile home, couldn't afford to miss work. I watched the Red Sox, though, beat up on my Yanks, but Dixie slept so comfortably. And about 5 o'clock, with the air pleasantly cool, we took off and continued up to see the gorge. And I left a note. Dear Kelly, thanks for your friendliness and hospitality. We never expect anything from anybody, but it's people like you who keep us going. You are America. Take care and be happy. Your new friends, Steve and Dixie. Side note. I share this somewhat benign story because I was now firmly entrenched in the second leg of my walk. And I, again, noticed this pattern. Dixie and I, just by how we expressed ourselves as we walked along the roads, inspired and created trust by a wide variety of strangers. From wealthy and aristocratic people to average, middle-aged, middle-class family people and those on the lower end of the socioeconomic and educational level. Ever since I left New York, that is, which is a place that I had learned to be judicious and somewhat skeptical of other people's friendliness. But I'm happy to say that others' trust in me has been good for me. And I also like to think that I rewarded the privilege of all these people's trusts. I often express how I was so spiritually affected by living out in nature. But all those positive experiences with so many people also greatly influenced the success of my adventure and my everyday since then, as I now head into my 63rd year. Now, I do realize that sometimes I can come across as naive and too trusting. Of course, I know that there really are crazy and dangerous people hiding in plain sight. I know that. I'm from New York. But I don't discount or minimize that I have an excellent track record, and I confidently state that it's not so much that I just trust as many people as it might appear. It's just that through experience, I trust myself. I've learned that I can trust my decisions and who to trust and when. So far, so good. And finally, by the way, I may have mentioned some of this all in a previous side note, but I do find that since it keeps going through my mind and repeating these experiences that I had with Kelly as an example is just as vital as any other part of the lessons of my journey. Later. June 22nd, 1987, Monday, between Parkdale and Texas Creek, Colorado, by the Arkansas River. Yesterday was Dad's Day, and all over America was at the Royal Gorge Park. We were the only ones walking in, and so we walked right past the line of cars. Hi, are you a father? I walked up to the toll booth, and that was how I was greeted. That's a strange question, but yes, as a matter of fact, I am. Long ago, Dixie became my daughter, and therefore I did consider myself a father. I could see the debate in that, but I don't think the point was that major. Why do you ask? Well, it's Father's Day, and dads get in free of charge. Hey, you have a beautiful dog there. Do you have a leash you can keep her on while you're in the park? Sure, no problem. Have a great day. And in we went. I spent the whole day wandering around and learning and seeing. I learned how this rock, which has been completely enveloping me, rose up. And then how the land was slowly eaten away by the Arkansas River over millions of years. I learned about the different types of rocks and uplifting and volcanoes, then erosion, etc. And it all created a gorge that is now about a quarter-mile deep. I find this all very fascinating, and I went on the world's highest suspension bridge. Another experience. But the best lesson of all? The best lesson is that I've learned that this gorgeous country is made up of all this. I've been seeing wonders of nature, different but similar, like this all over the country. Different places have different wonders and beauty, and it's everywhere. These wonders are not just in designated parks and memorials. The incredible beauty, wonder, and miracles of nature are all around, also incredibly beautiful. It's becoming increasingly obvious to me, and it's like the lesson just doesn't stop. Walking, I see it every moment, in sense around, constantly filling my senses. The Royal Gorge, gorgeous, as they say, is everything they say it is. On the other hand, I cannot satisfy myself and take it all in only a one day look see. I get satisfied by living in it every day. I'm not one of those people who have to rush to get it all in before heading home or back to the motel. I am home. Although I don't see this particular spot where I am right now each and every day, but my home these days is its relatives. As one beauty mark does not a woman make, this beautiful gorge is not the whole Rocky Mountain range. I want, have, and take it all in. And this is why we're walking across America. And I'm understanding how much I really have. Parks and memorials are like animals in a zoo. Oh, they're fun to go and see, but how much greater is it to find the land and the animals and the natural world running free in its natural setting everywhere I look and walk, in every direction? And that is how I am seeing so much of America. I am immersed in it, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and it's getting better all the time. As I write this, we are sitting by the white roaring waters of the Arkansas River, in a valley created by this river, surrounded by sheer cliffs of mountains that rose millions of years ago. To get to the Royal Gorge, we had to walk uphill 5 miles, and to get back to the Highway 50, we had to walk down 5 miles. It's a beautiful summer day, cool, breezy, and the Rockies are in full bloom. It was worth the walk. Hello, Rockies. We are here. June 23rd, 1987, Tuesday. Every little curve of the road is another exciting moment. One moment, all I can see is walls of mountains. The cliffs come right out to the white borderline of the road. I mean, there's no real shoulder to speak of, and I cannot even extend my arm completely from my body without scraping my fingers on a cliff. Both Dixie and I will have to be really on our toes to avoid getting run over on this road. Drivers don't have a chance to see us as they come around the bends, nor have a chance to react. And we don't see them or have much chance to react either, although sometimes I can hear them coming. I've been keeping Dixie on a leash right next to me. And then, around another bend, the valley opens up for a few minutes, and I could see the 14,000-foot peaks of snow-capped majesties. And then there'll be another bend, and who knows? It just doesn't stop. And we are a part of it all. Dixie and I, two tiny grains of sand on the beach of existence. Later. Around another bend, just out of Cotopaxi, I saw two guys. One was on the ground holding a line, and one was attached to a 75-foot sheer cliff. He was about at least 50 feet above the valley. I stopped to watch. I watched and finally saw Greg finally get to the top of the cliff, give a wave, and then went out of sight. And then he showed up a few minutes later, right next to where Jeff and I were talking. He came down along the back of the cliff. And now it was Jeff's turn to climb and Greg's turn to hold the belay line. It looked like fun, and I said so. About 30 feet into his climb, Jeff wasn't having much fun anymore. He was stranded. Personally, I couldn't see what his problem was. From my vantage point, I saw dozens of ledges to grab and cracks to slip toes into. Jeff didn't agree. Well, Greg's responsibility was to keep up the slack. If Jeff slipped and fell away or down, Greg's holding of the belay line would keep Jeff suspended in midair. Greg and I kept on talking and determined it was fun to see finally Jeff get to the top. You make it sound easy. You want to try? Jeff was responding to my teasing comments about his struggles. Absolutely, I said. And in a moment, I was putting on Greg's special climbing shoes. Most of the sneaker was surrounded by a rubber that went all around the bottom and around on the top. And, it was a way that you can grab the rock with different parts of your foot and get a hold of the cliff. I put Dixie aside with our packs, harnessed the rope around me, and Jeff took hold of the belay line. Greg walked me close to the base and gave me some hints. And up I went. No problem. I felt like Spider-Man. For about 30 feet, suddenly, it must have been an act of God, all those opportunistic cracks and ledges disappeared, I mean, there I was, about 3 stories high, hanging on a cliff, painfully looking at rocky ground below me, all dressed up and no place to go. My ego, God bless it, however, didn't allow me to admit defeat, and retreat was not preferred. Well, not immediately, at least. From below, the guys were patient but yelling advice. Good advice, too, for after a while I did manage to move along, or rather up, and up, and up, and up. Oh, I'd say for about another 20 or 25 feet. Then I definitely got stuck. The cliff surface was absolutely smooth. I went to the left. Nothing. I went to the right. Nothing. I couldn't go up. I was just hanging on. I looked down and saw Dixie. Her eyes were saying, I'm sure, now what's he got himself into? Jeff was nonchalantly holding my rope. My life was in his hands. If I lost my holding and balance, I would just swing along the cliff and, well, probably hurt myself. But if Jeff let go, I'd probably die. This was about as good a time as any to realize that this was not the smartest time to learn how to climb rocks. Danger and injury were hanging out with me on that rope. And should something happen to me, then what would I do? Being incapacitated in the Rockies with no home, job, family, or friends is not good. After about 10 minutes, 10 long minutes of going nowhere and moaning about being stuck, Greg showed up. I mean, all of a sudden, he was just a few feet beside me with no rope. Man, that was annoying. How the hell did you do that? Oh, I just came up on the other side where it's easy. Good answer, I said. He also went a bit higher and gave me some on-the-spot pointers. He said I could just let go and Jeff could let me down easy. But I just didn't feel happy with that. After being in one place for over 15 minutes, I decided it was time to get a grip. Pun intended. With Greg's suggestion, I took some risks, actually mini leaps, and found the holds. I mean, the fingers and toes and other various body parts that had any ability at all to grab, grabbed. Slowly, stumbling, sweating, and gritting my teeth, I made it. I made it. I mean, my hands went over the top. I dug a last foot into the cliff, pushed hard, and I did it. I was over the top. Damn, I was proud. Along with rappelling with the ROTC at Hofstra University, and parachuting in Long Island, and sleeping with alligators in the Okefenokee Swamp, and partying during Mardi Gras on Bourbon Street, and driving tractors in Kansas, I can list upon my credits in life as rock climbing in the Rockies. My life is getting fuller all the time. I made it. As a short-term challenge, with danger imminent, perseverance mandatory, and grit and determination necessary, this had to be the most challenging thing I have ever done since I don't know when. I can't remember the last time something was so hard and so scary, and I was totally not sure if I could do it. But I did it. It took me forever, but with Jeff's patient holding of the line and Greg's coaching, I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it with physical and mental prowess and determination. I'm very proud. I thought of how easy it looked from the bottom and how, from down there, I was able to see all the places to grab on the cliff face. I thought of how wrong I was, and I thought how I found the opportunities in time anyway. I realized that I was wrong to judge Jeff earlier before I had the actual experience. And I realized how I was able to accomplish my goal by creating the opportunities, or seeing them in different ways from when my vantage point changed. And I realized that seeing opportunity before and during will create an after. I think that's a good way to go through life. Greg and Jeff are river guides for a company on the river just up the road a piece. So they invited me to their lean-to type of summer home at the Lazy J campgrounds. Dixie, thrilled with my safe return, and I accepted their offer. We spent the night hanging out with them and a whole bunch of other guides and played volleyball. This was a fun A-plus day. Side note, the pictures I include in this video do an injustice to what my eyes took in. I was living it and feeling it more than I could even try to capture it, especially with the technology of the day. And of course, the prints were digitized decades after the original printing, and many just don't hold up. But still, I include my pictures, and including some from the internet, to provide at least a taste of what I saw and how the photographs of my experience contrast as the journey progresses. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for listening to my sharing. Peace.